Thank you for joining our session today. My name is Nicole Pretzel and I represent MFS. Today we're going to be talking about protecting your data, how to make you aware and prepared and really avoid some of those scams that are out there in the marketplace. This is a really important topic, and as we talk about it today, we wanted to share some best practices with everyone to really help empower you and your family. As I pull up this item on the screen, I would love everyone to just take a moment here and think about what we carry around on a regular basis, whether it's a wallet, whether it's a handbag or a purse. What do we have in it? Here's an example of some of the common things that we've had investors tell us that they're carrying around: cash, license, insurance cards, social security cards, perhaps, keys, a spare key, family photographs, credit and debit cards. There's so many things that we could be carrying around with us on a regular basis. And this is the opportunity for all of us to just take inventory of what we carry around, because the more we carry around, the more risk we have of losing these items and or getting them in the wrong hands. For example, if you had cash or a credit card, right? The cash would be gone. The credit card or the debit card could be used. A lot of the times when we're talking about protecting our identity, with all the data breaches that we've seen out there in the universe, we have logins, we have passwords, we have names, we have addresses, we have a lot of our information that perhaps is out there on the dark web. But one thing that really isn't popularly circulated is the social security number. And that's really the linchpin to our protecting our identity. So if we're carrying around our social security card, that's a big risk. And I don't really know if there's a company or a place that we visit on a regular basis that asks for a physical card. Just memorize the number and keep the social security card safe at home. Birth certificates, that's probably a rare thing to carry around, but that's another thing that if someone has a birth certificate, they could steal our identity with all that information and get extra copies of other birth certificates. Personal photographs puts our family and loved ones at risk. So as we can see, just taking a look at what's in our wallet or a handbag, right off the bat, we can help create a safer scenario for our families. As we talk about this topic today, there's three different areas that we'd like to explore. One, the types of threats and attacks that these bad actors try to get our information. 5 tips to keep us all safer. And last but not least, if we do get scammed, what actions are we going to take? So let's get started. What are some of the direct threats? Think of direct threats of lost or stolen physical property, mail scams, phone or voice messages. So as we look at lost or stolen property, we talked a little bit about some of these already in that first slide, but let's explore a little bit more about the cash and checkbooks. If we carry around a checkbook with us, it has personal information, our name, our address perhaps, but most importantly, it has our banking and routing number. If that gets in the wrong hands, someone can start an online pay app, like a Venmo or Zelle or PayPal, etc., and deplete your account. Most people's checking accounts have overdraft protection to their savings accounts. So if the checking account gets depleted, taps into the savings. That's a big risk. If we're still paying with checks, just make sure you bring a check with you. Don't bring the whole book. That's something that we can limit what we carry and really help protect ourselves. If our driver's license get in the wrong hands, you want to definitely contact the DMV and go through the proper steps on that, because that has a lot of sensitive information as well. Credit or debit cards, if those get lost or stolen, these companies are doing a really good job of trying to limit fraudulent charges, but you want to call them right away so that they can get on top of that. And credit, a lot of us are getting charged 3% these days, extra credit card fee. But at the end of the day, the credit card companies are really the one that's liable to deal with some of the extra fraud. As a consumer, we're liable up to $50 of damages. On the debit card, that's going to be connected to your banking accounts. And we talked about the checking account having overdraft to savings. That's our money. And we might be able to get that back as we go through multiple different steps. However, if we need money to pay other bills or there's other commitments that we have that we need those dollars for, that's going to put us in a challenge. So consider what source is more effective for you and your families to use, but just know that there's some risks and some benefits to both. Social Security card and health insurance card. This is one that we Social Security cards are a really important thing to keep protected because that Social Security number is unique to us. But let's keep that at home because we don't really need that number. Health insurance cards. I see a lot of people carrying these around, and if your purse or wallet is stolen, there's medical fraud that's going on too. These bad actors will get your medical records, tap into that, and we've seen cases where there is surgeries done that are under other people's names. So when it comes to your insurance cards, you can bring them to the first appointment with that provider, usually the first of the year, and then keep those safe at home with your Social Security card. And your keys as well, keep those close to the vest, because if those are stolen, right, people could click around, find your car, take your car, that type of thing. So let's just carry things a little bit lighter and store the important items in a safe. If we do have a lot of documents throughout our house, a shredder or going paperless is a really good idea. There are 3 websites that we have on the screen here: optoutprescreen.com, dmachoice.org, and catalogchoice.org. Those are sources that will help you reduce some of the junk mail. So there's less out there that's coming to you. And when it comes to the shredder, one thing I wanted to mention is having a crosscut shredder. I always say you want the shredder that gives you confetti, not spaghetti, because there are people that will still piece together information and go through documents and dumpster dive to be able to put the profile of their target together. And we just want to make sure that we can protect ourselves from that. So lost or stolen property gives you a little bit of background here. When it comes to mail scams, those websites I just mentioned will help you reduce the mail coming to you. But we want to make sure mail theft is at a minimum. And the one thing outside of reducing junk mailbox is you can take a look at a locked mailbox. And a locked mailbox is something that you could buy at any major store or buy online. And it allows mail to come in, but not to go out without a key or a code. And so that is something that you can control what gets taken out of your mailbox. That just secures it a little bit better. When we see people looking at things coming in the mail and you're getting letters and correspondence that say, confirm my personal identification, or you've won a prize, or here's a check or a money order, please cash me. Those are all usually indications of scams. We see a lot of false mail come to people that are getting targeted just so that they can try to get the username, the password, get you to call a number that reroutes you to one of these bad actors to get more information, to build your profile, to figure out, how can they ultimately take your data but steal your identity. So be wary of what junk mail comes in your mail. That's why it's really important to reduce that, especially if it's a credit card offer. You get a lot of those credit card offers in the mail and they're like 0%, 2%, whatever, at a lower rate. If that gets in the wrong hands, to fill out one of those credit card applications, you could Google a lot of that information. You could Google your name, your address. You look up on social media what your job might be. If you're retired, people can look up what was your job. They can guess salaries. That is a risk that we all have when we have extra junk mail and things like that coming to our mailbox. So just let's take a look at reducing that. There is a service called informeddelivery.usps.com. This is through the United States Postal Service. This gives you a sneak peek to what's supposed to be mailed to you. This is a great way where it's free and you can take a look at what's intended to be mailed to you versus what you get. And if something you receive is not on this list, it's a good indication that it could be fraudulent. So please just take a look at that. The other thing too, and it ties us back to financials, if we're mailing our mortgage or mailing bills in line, really want to make sure if that flag is up, that's usually a good indication that there's something value or something in the mailbox. So if you're paying with check, again, the checks sometimes we see people open those envelopes, erase the checks, write the checks out to themselves for the dollar amount, and that's a risk. So if you're paying by check, please don't put some sensitive information in your mailbox and pop up the red flag. Take it to the postal office and give it to a postal worker to have them put it through the mail service. That's less risk for all of us that are mailing out our bills. or we can consider going online and doing some of that, receiving your statement in the mail or via online versus in the mail, things like that. When it comes to phone scams, everybody's favorite, we see a lot of phone scams starting with people posing as someone that they're not. The IRS, the FBI, the Social Security Administration, even family members. We want to be careful if you're getting a phone number from any of these government agencies. Just note that the government doesn't usually call us. They send us certified mail to connect, and these are tended to be very popular scams. The car warranties, the fake businesses, investments, technical support, charity scams, travel and timeshare deals. Those are other ones that are pretty popular. The technical support one has been very, very front and center, where someone is saying, we're calling because we're part of your security, your software package, and we notify that there is an issue on your device. Do you see the password on your screen? Oh, we need that password on your screen. And now we'll get in and we'll make sure we can make sure your computer's safe. When that is happening, they're really getting access to everything that's on your computer. So you want to make sure if you did not call for technical support, that's a big red flag that there's a bad actor on the other line and they're the ones trying to get access to information. But that one tends to be quite popular. At the end of the year, we typically see Social Security calls happen as well, because if you're receiving Social Security, you'll get an opportunity to get an inflation adjustment to that check. And that is something that automatically happens. You do not have to apply for, but the calls are, would you like to get that? Would you like to apply? And of course, people would love to get the extra step up to keep up with inflation, but that is a scam. Also, the IRS does call quite a bit during tax time. And so anytime there's an urgency or you need to call back or it's the police or whatnot, those are usually tied to scams. So please be careful with that. There is a donotcall.gov website to register your phone. And normally I get, oh, that doesn't work. And every 2 years, you have to add your phone number back to the do not call list. And so if you're getting more fake phone calls, I encourage you to go back and add your home phone, your cell phones, children's phones, family members, just to make sure all your numbers are actually blocked. There is a service, ctia.org, that helps you filter and block unwanted calls. So that is something that you could consider doing if this becomes an issue, or talk to your phone service too. Is there ways tools and resources that they might have to help you in this department? And when in doubt, someone calls you and says, please call me back at this number. Look up the number yourself. Take the initiative by interacting by a number you trust, not just what's left on your voicemail, things like that. So let's talk about digital threats. This is a rising issue that we see with all of the technology and the cybersecurity issues out there when it comes to emails, websites, Wi-Fi, text messages. So let's go through a few examples. This is a quiz for everybody that's listening here. Which one of these two email addresses are fake? When you take a look at them, they look pretty similar, customer service at Amazon.com. But in the second one, you see the O is a 0. So be careful with O's being transposed to numbers like 0. When we look at the customer complaint department at Apple.com, we also see here that the second one is false. The I and the A are switched. So sometimes in the middle of the words, you'll see the vowels being switched. So be careful with that. Last but not least, return department at Walmart.com. This one, I think it's a little trickier. What you see is in the first one, there is an uppercase I instead of an L. So uppercase I and lowercase l look identical. And also people can do this if they're looking for an M. They can do 2 lowercase n's together. So just be careful with some of that. But we would say with email scams, it's really important to just use a bigger screen. It's hard to see on our phones. It's hard to see even maybe on that screen that we were just looking at. So use a bigger device when you're looking at some of those emails. Other email scams would be fake invoices, scams on give us a fee before service, suspicious activity, or your account's been deactivated, click here to reactivate. How about take this survey on social media because we want to learn a little bit about your childhood street that you grew up on, the car, things like that that actually will tell them a little bit about us and our history to help crack those passwords. So that's always those survey scams are phishing attacks to get information about us. Free trials and gift offers. If you didn't sign up for the gift or a contest, chances are you didn't win anything, right? And the foreign money exchange scams. Those are usually things that we see coming through emails. And we want to just be careful that we don't click the link and we use some common sense of, is this related to what I have been looking for? Is this something I'm anticipating, or is this just junk mail? Another thing we could do, we could verify the sender address, take your cursor in and hover over who sent it to you. A lot of times, if it's fake, you will see a bunch of letters and numbers, and it will look like not a legitimate email address. It could say at gmail.com. We know a business isn't going to use a Gmail account. They'll have their own domain. So those are other things that you could identify, fake email scams. Check your emailing on a computer. The bigger screen does help. And scan the suspicious links and attachments. So hovering over again can give you some additional information versus clicking. We really want to be careful with clicking so that we don't download anything unwanted on our devices. So those are a couple things to keep an eye out for email scams. I think with our tools on email, our providers will also give us an opportunity to mark as junk, mark as fraudulent. Depending on the service, you can say if it's phishing, if it's, unwanted. There's a lot of different options. So feel free to take that initiative and mark accordingly. That does help other people not get those scams. And when we delete emails, it's important to delete our deleted emails, because if there is something in there that is suspicious, it's a less chance for us to click it or for anything to happen down the road. So just kind of do some email maintenance to help with threats to emails as well. So websites. To find a website that is safe, what is really important is to look for the lockbox on top. There's a little lock that's locked, or it might say HTTPS. That is, S stands for secure. Those are really important identifications if we're going to look for legitimate websites. You want the lock if you're going to do any financial payment online. Those are just a couple key tips to help you stay safer. When you see the misspellings, when you see a website that you're like, I don't recognize this business, or a lot of pop-ups are coming up, or there's grammar or spelling mistakes, or there's some contact information that just looks a little missed, those are usually indications that this is not a legitimate website, that maybe it's fictitious, and they're going to reroute you to take your credit card information and, have an issue that way. So just make sure we use secured sites when we're doing any payments. We're using security software to scan for viruses on our devices. And if we're using if we're out and about, let's just make sure we're not using, we'll talk about Wi-Fi in a minute, but we want to make sure all our financial information is done in a secured area at our homes versus out and about. So hopefully that helps with some websites. So now it's kind of transitioning to Wi-Fi. I know a lot of people are traveling these days. They're out at a coffee shop. It's just great to have all the flexibility of getting online anywhere we go. But these are usually the places where we see these bad actors trying to target other victims. So one of the things just to be aware of, if you're doing financial work, make sure you're on your own personal network, your cellular data, your own Wi-Fi, or you're at your home. Don't do financial work when you're on an unsecured network. So you have free Wi-Fi in coffee shops and things like that. You want to be very careful, because if it's free Wi-Fi and it's unsecured, people can access your information if you're on that website. So one thing that people do use is they use a virtual private network. Now, this is an app that you can use to connect through before you go online. So it's encrypted and it protects you when you're when you're traveling or you're at a different location. The important thing is have a locked, password secure Wi-Fi when you're doing work. Also, when you're out traveling at the airport, one of the things that I've had people tell me about is RDFI sleeves. Those are cards that prevent radio frequency. So sometimes there's bad actors that have devices that try to scan information out of our purses or wallets. Those RDFI slides, those cards, they help protect that. So just being a little bit careful with that. I think about that when I think about traveling. So just keeping our personal information secure when we're out and about would be a great idea. So text scams, this is on the rise. We see these happen a lot more these days. Whether it's a family member, this example, hey, John, I got a new phone. I hate to bother you, but I'm out of town. I just got in a car crash. I'm okay, but I'm at the hospital. I need $200. Can you help me to get back home? Right? You want to help your friends, you want to help your family, but those are very popular scams. So please be on the lookout for that. Reputable companies like Apple might send, we detected fraudulent activity on your iCloud account. Please reset your password by clicking this link. Those are fake. That is usually indication that you're getting scammed. You can see where the sender is, just a couple numbers, 2345456. That's not coming from Apple. That's coming from someone that's creating a fake text so that they can interact with us and try to see us, bait us to click that link. So just be aware that that happens. And then another very popular one, good company like Google, right, says, congratulations, you've won $1,000 on this gift card. Click here to claim it. Clicking the link allows them to get more information from us. So with text, just like emails, we can go and we can either swipe to block, swipe to delete, swipe to report. Those are important to just make sure we can report junk so that those can minimize the extra text that we would be getting. But just be aware that they're out there. A reminder that there's that website, ctia.org, that helps block and filter unwanted text as well. We just say use the common sense, right? If you didn't apply for the prize, you didn't win the prize. Don't reset your passwords with text. If you are resetting your own password and you get a PIN and someone says, they call you maybe and say, can I have a copy of that PIN? Do not give those PINs over the phone. Those PINs will allow the bad actors to reset your passwords. So we want to be really careful that we're protecting ourselves from that. And at the end of the day, let's just initiate the interaction ourselves. Call a number you trust versus responding to some of these messages that are coming in via text. Artificial intelligence and scams. This is getting kind of interesting because artificial intelligence is helping with a lot of efficiencies, but bad actors are also using this extra automation and voice cloning to make some fake things that are causing scams. So for example, they can alter images, they can clone voices, they can go to social media websites and copy a voice of maybe a family member that posted a video and now call you using that voice to say, hey, I'm in trouble. Can you please send me some money? Why wouldn't you want to help a family member, right? So that's a scary thought. Or fake videos, altering those images again. All things that we should just be on the lookout for. A couple things that we think about is if this could, they're targeting people with families and they're targeting grandparents typically with this, with grandchildren calling grandparents. So if this is you, one of the things you could do is talk about this with your family and come up with a family password. If you have a family password, just say, what's our passcode? That usually will get them to hang up the phone or stop interacting with you because they know that you're on to it. So that's something to consider as well. But just be on the lookout for this. And that could help with some of the extra artificial intelligence scams that we're seeing. Okay, those are all the ways that we can get scammed. And there's a lot more we could talk about, but hopefully that gives you a good idea of a couple key things. We're going to switch gears now to prevention tips. We have 5 tips to help keep everyone safe. Unique passwords and strong passwords. If you take a look at this chart, this will show you how long and how strong your password should be and how long it takes to hack it. So if you look at a 12-character or longer password that has numbers, upper and lowercase letters, and symbols, you're in a really good spot. You're about 226 years to hack it. So the longer and more complicated the passwords, the better. We also say another thing to consider with passwords is please don't use the same one for every single website that you're on. If someone does get hold of one, they'll try it for all the different sites they're trying to access, and that puts us more at risk. So changing your passwords on a regular basis is a really nice tip here. The other thing, people have reverted to password managers. So looking at whether it's our phones that can keep track of it or having an app that keeps the password. Some popular ones are Password Manager, 1Password, KeyPass. You can find one that you would trust, and those are usually encrypted to the user. So if there was a breach, it's very minimal impact. They wouldn't know who it's tied to. So that's something to consider to help keep track of these longer and stronger passwords. And then, changing them really does help. But I thought that's our first tip. Just have a long and strong password. Backing up our information is tip number 2. We're seeing a lot of these ransomware attacks saying, please give me some money because I have all your client files or I have all your personal information. We're seeing this at the government level. Baltimore estimated a cost of $18.2 million is they had to restore email accounts. That's a big, big price tag for some of these ransomwares. There was a pipeline. They paid $5 million to the ransom hackers just to get access to their information. The FBI tells us do not pay the ransom because the more likely if you pay the ransom, you're going to be an additional target going forward. Us as people, not businesses or governments, what we could do is we can make sure our software is updated on a regular basis on our phones. That's the easiest way to do it. We can have our information backed up to the iCloud. So then we don't have to be worried about someone stealing our information and not having a copy of it. So having those security updates are automated on our device, going through our settings and making sure that happens. That's pushing out the latest and greatest security that we have on our devices. So that's something that we could do to back up our information on a regular basis and make sure those security settings are updated. Tip number 3, review and monitor your financial statements. You can get a free credit report once a year from each of these credit bureaus. That's really important because then we can identify any fraudulent activity that might be going on under our identity. So you can go to annualcreditreport.com. You can call the number 877-322-8228. Get connected that way, or you can go directly to Equifax, Experian, or TransUnion. Each of these credit reports are going to be similar but different. They have a different format. They have a different look, but they will report your name, your address. They will take a look at what outstanding credit cards you might have open. People have identified fraudulent credit card transactions because they've run their credit and said, well, I don't have that credit card in my name. Well, someone might have taken it from the mailbox and started one, and then you can catch it that way. So really important to run the credit card report or the credit report, please. I had someone give me a really great idea. They said, well, I don't want to pay for a credit monitoring service, which is an option if you've had your identity stolen or if you want to extra security, you can have a credit monitoring service. You can pay for that on a monthly basis. But this person told me, I don't want to do that. So what they did is they went to Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, and they staggered it through the year. So they would check their credit kind of themselves throughout the year. So that's an option too. I thought that was pretty clever. Another thing, if we're done making bigger purchases, let's say we're done buying a home, we're done buying a boat, a toy, whatever you might be buying, which is always exciting. But let's say you have what you need. You can call these credit bureaus and ask to have your credit frozen. It's free. And what that does, it prevents people from opening up a loan in your name, opening up a credit card in your name. That is really great. You won't even be able to sign up for a credit card in your own name. What you need to do is need to call them back and say, could you please unfreeze my credit? It usually takes 1 to 3 days. And then once it's unfrozen, then you can proceed with setting up a loan or a new credit card. But that's an extra security that you could take if you're worried about this. This does really impact minors. If you think about young minor children that are, let's say 18 and younger, they're not really doing much when it comes to buying homes or cars or credit cards, perhaps. So their credit's not being monitored. So some of these bad actors will actually try to target children to get credit card, to get their social security number, create an identity in their names, and they won't find out until they go apply for a college loan or their first credit card. So it's important if you do have minor children to work with these these credit bureaus to help freeze your minor's credit account because it could prevent some challenges down the road. But just a couple different ideas here. The other one too I mentioned earlier, just to revisit this, is how are you receiving your financial advisor statement? You know, if you're working with IAG and the statement comes in the mail, it's probably a good indication that you could be a good target because you have money and you're working with a really well represented financial firm. So going online and doing things securely with online statements will help you, will also be another way to help you monitor your credit or your financial statements as well and keep them safer. All right, so that was the tip number 3. Tip number 4, be careful with web activity. So we talked about just making sure we're on the right Wi-Fi. We're not doing things out there in airports or coffee shops financially. Coming to social media, let's keep our accounts private and review our connections. A lot of these bad actors will actually create a fake friend profile that's the name of your already existing friend. And you might have 2 friends with the same name. One's real, one's fake. And once you accept the connection, it's very unlikely people go back and review your friends. So that could be something we could do. Review your friends. Do you have 2 Mary Smiths, 3 Mary Smiths, 2 Bob Smiths? You got to look into that to make sure that you're not having someone access your personal information, because that is, the more they know about you, the more likely they can help try to crack those passwords. Sharing your personal information. I always say, when you're traveling and we're so excited about the family trip we might be taking, make sure you come home first and then post. If you're posting as you're traveling, it's a great indication that no one's home and your house is open. You might have a security system, which is great, but people still break into homes. We want to make sure we're careful about sharing our personal information online. And then just check your settings. Have the comfort level that you want to have in these settings, whether you want everyone in the platform to see what you're posting, or if it's just the people you've chosen to network with. These are all really just great ways for us to check those settings to make sure that what we're intending is actually happening. Some of the social media scams to be aware of, cryptocurrency. This is usually something that's targeting to the younger generation. Let's guaranteed no risks, let's transact in cryptocurrency. So that's usually a pretty big indication. If you're only supposed to pay in crypto, that's not usually a legitimate business. People transact in dollars for legitimate businesses. So be careful on that for the younger generation. Online shopping scams, this is targeting almost every generation. So you're going to be careful that we check those websites. We only put our credit cards in those secure portals. And then we can Google the names of the websites with the name fake or scam to see if it's a legitimate web business, if it's a newer website or it's a new retailer we haven't worked with before. And then romance scams. These are typically focused on like Gen X and the baby boomer generation, where people are just trying to get to know people online with those online dating sites. And they'll really profess love quickly, talking about traveling a lot for work, asking for money, maybe even offering you some money, a small dollar amount in the beginning to make it not look like it's one-sided, and have a lot of emergencies come up. So just be careful with some of those scams that we're seeing out there online, and protect your information on the social platforms. And then the last tip here, initiate the interaction yourself. We say trust but verify, right? You're getting a phone call, you're getting a piece of mail that you don't know if it's junk, you're getting a text message, and they're saying, your password's compromised, or we need more information, this account's been reactivated or deactivated, call this number, click this link. Please use trusted sources to find the number you trust to contact so that you're not getting rerouted to these bad actors. Trust but verify. All right, now we're going to wrap up with a couple actions to take if you are scammed. A lot of times it's not just full identity theft. If your identity has been stolen, we really want to make sure that you go to identitytheft.gov. It's a website that will give you a place to completely build a recovery plan for your whole identity. But a lot of the times you get pieces stolen, or there's small things that are going on that we can really address quickly. So let's talk about what if you pay with a credit or a debit card and that gets compromised? The first step would be to call the credit or the debit company and say, this is what happened. Please help me address the issue. And they'll walk you through that. A money transfer app. Let's say you have some fraud with Venmo, PayPal, Zelle, Cash App, one of those sites. Call them directly. They will help you walk through that process. If you have a check that's in the wrong hands, stop payment on that check immediately. Call the bank or your financial institution that issued the check and have them stop payment on that check. And then they'll walk you through next steps. A wire transfer. So when you're transacting with property and you're using wire transfers, it's a really instantaneous process. And a lot of times you'll get a call last minute saying, hey, we have new wire instructions. I'm sorry for the last minute change, but let's rewire it to this number. That's usually an indication of fraud. Anything last minute, anything with urgency, please have a red flag go up and really be thoughtful about what those next steps are, because a wire transfer, once it's sent, it's sent. And if it's sent to the wrong place, these are usually transferred multiple times to various different locations, and it's very hard to track. So check your wire transfer instructions forwards and backwards before that is sent, because that's a very tricky one. Gift cards, prepaid cards, cash reload cards. These are usually used in fraudulent situations where someone asks you to buy gift cards to help them out. Or there's a fundraiser or a charity, just give us a gift card, we'll send it to this organization. There's now people who are using gift card numbers at the shopping centers and already having that gift card information, the ones at the shopping, if you can go to the store and you can just have that whole rack of gift cards. So if you see the back of the gift card peeled off, pass on that and let someone know, because chances are those numbers have been scratched off and they're already using it. But so there's a lot of fraud around gift cards. So just be careful. If you do have a legitimate gift card and let's say it's been compromised, call the store that it's attached to, and they can help you with next steps. And then cryptocurrency. If it's a cryptocurrency fraud, we would call the Federal Trade Commission. They would help you work through that. It's sometimes a little tricky there, but you could start there. And the Federal Trade Commission likes to know when there is fraud. It's not mandatory that you report it, but it does help them track what's happening. And if it is, when it comes to your identity, you want to make sure that if you have an identity issue or if there's some fraud done, you can go to the police station and file a report, because if there's ever a criminal aspect of this, you want to make sure you can clear your name quickly. So those are just a couple things to do if you paid with some of these things. What happens if someone gets your username or your password? Well, when we set these accounts up online, there tends to be a lot of additional security information that we do on the front end. And we'll call that company and just say, this has been compromised, or I accidentally gave the PIN over the phone and I got scammed and now I don't know what to do. They'll have to go through a series of questions to verify you, but they can help you with that. If someone gets access remotely to your computer, let's say through that text scam, right? We want to help clear up your computer and make sure there's no scam, no malware or, bad software on it. And you give them the PIN on the computer. If you're like, oh, I remember that this is not what I should have been doing, I made a mistake, please just shut down your computer. You can hang up the phone, right? But you got to shut down the computer too. If the computer is not powered down through the power source, then you're still at risk. And so shutting the computer down does usually kick some of those bad actors off. And then if your social security number is compromised, this is going to be something you need to be on the lookout for, identity theft. And you want to call the Social Security Administration to see if they have any pointers for you, and go to that identitytheft.gov website and follow those steps. So hopefully that helps with some next steps to take if you have had some issues with any of these types of scams. And as we wrap up today, really want to make sure that if you do get scammed, that we act quickly. And if we act quickly, the less damage is done. And we really hope that you can walk away today with learning a little bit more about how some of these bad actors are approaching us. Some 5 tips to stay safer. And then if it does happen, what are some of the things that we can do? And it's always important to act quickly. And if you have any resource or any questions, feel free to reach out to IAG. They'd be happy to get in touch with me or have the probably have the answer themselves as well. We have lots of resources and handouts that provide additional information with some of the resources that we talked throughout the program today. And really appreciate your time and attention. And hopefully everyone can learn one or two things to go out there and empower themselves and their family to stay safer. Thank you.